Well, shit. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Steve Wright Show. Enjoy.
It's the Steve Wright Show. Failed director, actor, writer. It's the Steve Wright Show. He's the one who does hand puppet theater. Allan the dog and Chipper Lou. Won't you join them on YouTube? It's the Steve Wright Show. You gotta love that driving asshole guy.
And here is your host, failed director, actor, writer, Steve Wright.
What's up, everybody? I'm obviously not failed director, actor, writer, Steve Wright, but we'll get to him shortly. But if he was here, I know Steve would thank you all for tuning in for the absurd, the hilarious, and the sexer. Speaking of the absurd, we're going to go to Dent Fleming of Hand Puppet Theater, and he's going to recite some Shakespeare for us. Dent apparently realized he was in love recently, and excuse me, we're going to hear a little Shakespearean soliloquy from Dent. For reals, dude?
He's in love, Allan.
Seriously?
It can happen.
That's right, Allan. I'm in love. Fell in lovesies. So, I memorized this Shakespearean speech from Romeo and Juliet. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio. But soft. What light through yonder window breaks is the east. In Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that thou her maid art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business do entreat her eyes, to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright, that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand? Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek! Bam! Mic drop. Peace! Thank you!
Hey, Chopper Lou, can you hear that?
I'm sorry, Allan. Please go again.
No, yeah, I was just saying, can you hear that sound?
I do copy, but that is a negative-arino. I did not pick up anything on this end.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what that sound is. That's the sound of the Steve Wright Show not being picked up for a second season. Jumping the shark there a little bit, it seems to me. Dent, Fleming, doing Shakespeare. Come on, man.
Well, shit.
All right, let's get down to biz nasty. Steve Wright, right now, is sitting down with his brother John Wright in Indianapolis, Indiana. And they're going to talk about the life and career of their brother, Joe Wright, who's a great actor in his own time. And, I'll say this about Steve. He misses Joe every single day. Every day. And so this is really a special episode for everybody here at the Steve Wright Show. Steve and John, appropriately, are sitting down at a bar called Brothers. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Allan. That is true. I am here at a bar called Brothers with my brother John. How are you, John?
Great. Good to be here with you, man.
Good. It is good to see you. You know, last time I was filming an episode of the Steve Wright Show, and I was thinking, God, who's going to be the next guest? And I thought it's a shame that our brother Joe has passed away because he'd be a perfect guest. The guy honestly hit it big time in Hollywood. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I have my brother John on the show, and we'll sort of talk about his career a little bit. First, I was going to ask you, early in his career, Joe obviously did some commercials, some national commercials, was doing well in theater in Indianapolis. And his first, I think, big break was Broadway, and you lived with him in New York. Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So he had done some great theater in Indianapolis, and there was some definite New York connections in Indianapolis, so he ended up getting an agent out there, and pretty quickly landed a role of one of the boys in Oliver. and he was actually what's called a swing. So he would study all the kids' parts, so that if any of them got sick or couldn't make it, he would take their place. So there were some times where he wasn't on at all.
Yeah.
But believe me, when you talk about 12 kids or whatever, there's always something going on.
Right.
So he would fill in. So he had his little binders all organized, and great time.
Well, and it was a musical too, so he's singing. And,
Absolutely.
Right. So the show closed at some point. Yeah, finally it
Yeah.
closed.
So actually, it was not real successful. Broadway, they're not absolutely making lots of money. So they're sort of worried it was going to shut down, and so they actually paid Michael Jackson to show up at the show.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
I knew he was there. There's a picture of Michael Jackson with all these kids.
So he comes in, all the
Yeah.
lights, hoping that would
Oh, that's
generate
so nice.
interest. And so actually, I did get to meet Michael Jackson.
Oh, you really?
And of course, Joe did too. We were just
Right.
saying, I don't know how I got back there, but I did.
Yeah.
Seriously? Oh, I know how he got backstage.
But,
And you guys were like living in an apartment, just
yep,
working on Broadway.
chilling. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Of course, we were kind of beyond that when we were fighting stage. We were getting along great. I'm
Yeah.
19, he's whatever. And
We never got past that stage, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding.
So
Yeah.
So anyway, turns out its closing was an absolute blessing because he had just auditioned for a TV movie called Poison Ivy,
Big time.
starring Michael J. Fox
And Nancy McKeon,
and Nancy McKeon, and he got the part.
Yeah.
So he was going to have problems if that didn't. So it happened to close, perfect timing. Boom, he's off to do that.
Sweet, awesome. Yeah, Poison Ivy was such a huge movie. It was like a feature film. Like, that's how big it was. It had Nancy McKeon, Michael J. Fox, Robert Klein, the comedian. And I remember for years after that movie, people were coming up to me thinking I was Joe.
Oh, really?
Because
Wow.
I was younger than Joe, and so then a couple years later, I kind of looked like Joe at that time.
Do people on TV not age?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, I am Joe. But no, we've got a picture here, and we'll show close-ups of it, but this is Joe with Nancy McKeon and Michael J. Fox, and Michael J. Fox wrote this note for Joe, which is pretty cool. It says, talking with you and generally knowing you, I know you'll do well if you continue to take care. Your friend, Michael J. Fox, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Very nice.
And here's a picture of Joe in like his actor's chair, and that's Robert Klein, and that may be the director. I'm not sure. Should have done my research. And then this is a note from Robert Klein to Joe. It says, to Joe Wright, a fine talent and young man, Mr. Wright from Mr. Wrong, Robert Klein, 6/22/84. I thought that was pretty cool. But,
Yeah.
but that was a huge movie. Everyone remembers Poison Ivy. Now, of course, Drew Barrymore had to make a movie called Poison Ivy after that, so it's like not the one with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah,
But
right, that's right,
Everyone
yeah.
in our generation
But
remembers that
literally
movie.
10 years after,
Yeah.
it was still showing, and he was getting like $50 checks
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
royalty checks. you
Every
know.
summer it would show.
Yeah.
For so long, and like that was before movies were like on TV, so it really was
Yeah.
like a movie.
Yeah.
On
Hey, don't
TV.
we have a shirt of his or
Yes.
something?
Oh, yes, we do. Look, here we go. Thank you. For
We
reminding
actually
me.
found this shirt.
This was the shirt that he wore in the movie. It says Camp Pinewood. So obviously, Poison Ivy was about campers, and he was one of the
Exactly.
starring kids. He played Jerry Disbro, who was like the cool kid. He ironically wore the Michael Jackson glove in that one.
That's
scene.
right, that's
But he was
right.
always hooking up with all the girls or whatever. It was a really stretch for him to act in that role. That was a difficult role for him. So after Poison Ivy, he was in another TV movie, a Disney movie, b.r.a.t. Patrol, about military kids. And I remember I actually went to set one day. I met Sean Astin, who of course had a resurgence in his career in the Lord of the Rings movies. But I met Sean Astin, and one quick thing, Joe was like, hey, just FYI, Sean is very touchy-feely. And I'm like, I had never really met anyone like that, because in our family, we don't say I love you, and we don't touch each other ever. Just kidding. No, but then I found out.
Really?
He's like, Joe's like, hey, this is Sean. He's like, what's up, dude? God, yeah. So he was pretty funny. So I was like, anyway, now I know what that means. But b.r.a.t. Patrol was great. Joe played the villain, total co-star. He played the villain to Sean Astin's hero role. But then you were telling me, which I had forgotten or did not know, about Silver Bullet.
Yeah, so I don't know how long ago, how long after b.r.a.t. Patrol, but basically, the Stephen King movie, Silver Bullet, werewolf movie, and they needed a kid part, and he still had his agent, and the director knew of Joe's work and said, I don't want to do any auditions, he's got the part. And Joe was like, that's a big deal, because
Absolutely.
Flying out there, auditioning, all that stress, it was great, because he could just be like, boom, I've got the role.
Yeah.
So he was pretty psyched about that.
A huge movie, man. Dino De Laurentiis produced it. Gary Busey was in it. Corey Haim played the kid in the wheelchair, and he was Joe's friend.
That's right,
And
yeah.
I remember when I went to see that movie, I was pretty damn young.
Oh yeah.
And I remember sitting there in the theater, and it got dark, and the moon and all the scary opening, and Joe Wright's name flashed on the screen, and I cried from jealousy.
Well, I've got a
I
crime
literally
story
did.
about
I
that.
cried out of jealousy. True story. I was like, this is not happy tears. This is self-pity tears. And you had a crying story about Silver Bullet as well.
I guess there were a lot of tears shed over that movie. So
yeah.
I was in college by then, and I was at the movie theater and seeing. I was with this girl, friend of mine, and so Joe basically has a pretty big role in the beginning of the show, but he gets mauled by the werewolf.
Yeah.
So after he's just died, I'm watching him going, "Oh, wow, this is a great movie," blah blah blah. And I hear this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I look over, this girl's crying. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she's like, your brother died. I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. So I guess when people die in a movie, then they die in real life.
Or the subtext is, I'm in love with Joe. No, but you were telling me about after Silver Bullet, Joe had a huge, possibly life-changing audition. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact timing, but yeah. So he had a chance to audition for the part of Wesley Crusher on the coming new show, Star Trek Next Generation, which of course became a huge success.
Yeah.
And Mom said that they took the red eye to New York City to make to do that audition, and unfortunately he was tired. Did not get a lot of sleep, and it turned out to be a really bad audition. So, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But, let's move on. That
would have changed everything, but whatever. No, but they went a different direction.
Yes.
They went with nerd.
Total 100%.
Yeah, so Will Wheaton ended up getting that role and ruined the franchise. So that's the direction they went. Ruined the franchise route. No, I'm just kidding. Will, we love you. Also, I had the pleasure of working with Joe on the one independent movie that I put together, Shock Therapy TV, the movie. You were in it.
Yeah,
it was
fun.
kind of a family
Great time.
project.
Absolutely.
You were Gonzo. Joe in his adult career, he was mostly a voiceover actor. He did 2 specials for the Discovery Channel, spring and summer. Voiced, was the narrator for those 2 hour-long shows. And he was on the radio a lot, doing spots for Army, Taco Bell, all kinds of stuff. So literally, you turn on the radio to hear Joe's voice, which was really cool. And didn't you say he did some sort of political commercial?
Yeah, and I can't remember if I even saw it, but he's told me about it. He said, I've been hired to do this radical right-wing commercial, and he was radical left-wing, so he was like, man, I just really didn't feel comfortable. Like, how much? Okay, let's do this.
Exactly, dude. I am dying for the opportunity to sell my soul. Anyway, John, thank you for coming out and talking about Joe's career. It's been fun. It's been nice reminiscing about the whole thing.
Thank you, man.
To Joe.
To Joe.
Back to you, Allan.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you all for tuning in for a very special episode of The Steve Wright Show. Next time, Ben Schaefer,
An executive editor
of Da Capo Press, is going to join Steve for a Mai Tai at She Dynasty. Ben has a bunch of great stories about the book editing and publishing biz nastoid. So be sure to join us next week. Thanks again, everybody. We getting drinks after work, dude?
What's that, Allan?
I said we getting drinks after work, dude?
Dude, I'm on the wagon.
What? Again, man?